Blood In, Blood Out started streaming on Hulu May 1st. But how long has streaming been around? You know, it's a 30-year-old film. It turned 30 last year. And Taylor Hackford, the director-producer, and Jimmy Santiago Baca, the writer-producer, published a book that was an homage. And it's got, the beautiful thing is it's got Adan Hernandez as one of the authors.
I que en paz descanse.
Yes. So they have Taylor, Jimmy the writer, Merrick Morton, whose photos those all are of the film, and Adan Hernandez are the authors. But the book itself is an homage to the film, and it's so popular that it forced Disney to release finally.
Finally?
Yes, finally. Since then, only 2.5, 3 weeks it's been in May 1st. It's already number 5.
Wow.
So that's how popular the film is. But it also shows you how the business controls the flow of distribution.
And controls the popularity.
Why 30 years ago was this not that popular? It was.
It was.
What they did was they deliberately sabotaged it by changing the title 2 weeks before it was released.
It wasn't Blood In, Blood Out.
It was Bound by Honor. And after we had been producing it as Blood In, Blood Out for 3 years and promoting it, our press junket, which is those 3-4 weeks before the film releases, where you travel the country, show screenings to audiences, but with the press. The press then does reviews. That's the rhythm of a release, of a theatrical release. The press comes out at about the time that they're opening nationally, and that promotes the film. We got mixed reviews, right? We got from cultural perspectives, we got a kind of like, is this the same thing? But from critical reviews and mainstream reviews, we actually got a very popular review. So it was going to be successful. It was scheduled to make about $40 million its opening weekend. Then the cultural war started, right? And then the riots happened. And so it was the perfect storm. But at that point, Disney went, we're not only going to change the title, we're not going to release it theatrically. It's talk about going straight to streaming. It was going to go straight to VHS, which in those days was a death knell. You know, it was the end. So all of this was happening within the space of 6 to 8 months. This is after the film was finished. And so, and because of that delay is why the riots happened, and ultimately they made the decision to just kill the project.
And it just stayed on a shelf.
It stayed on a shelf, but actually what they did is they're very smart. Once they released on VHS, they changed the name back to Blood In, Blood Out. So now all the audiences that wanted to see it on theatrical went to VHS. So they made their money back on VHS and pay-per-view in the first 5 years.
And I imagine that they also did well overseas and international markets.
I told everyone, so there were 2 things that happened, and this was very special for this project. They decided to release this film in 2 languages simultaneously. People don't realize that because I dubbed my voice in Spanish. Yo doblé mi voz en español. Because once they told me they were going to do a Spanish release, Sangre por Sangre, I went, well, who's doing my voice? Who's doing my performance? You know, because I'd spent 3 years working on Fame. So that was a skill I had. I knew how to dub. I knew how to loop. I knew how to voice replace, right? So it was a skill that I found I had. So I said, hey, let me do my voice in Spanish because I know my performance. And I know the Chicano caló. At that time in Mexico, they didn't recognize the Chicano culture too much in the early 90s.
Oh, now they really embrace it.
Oh, my God. Now it's synonymous with them. But I'll tell you that that movie helped.
And it's popular in some Asian countries, too, like Japan.
The car culture and the Chicano culture are enormous there. But I think films like, and not just Blood In, Blood Out, but American Me, Selena, Mi Familia, all those films kind of impacted internationally. But that wasn't recognized domestically until just recently. Remember, we were talking about the Latino wave in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it's still, the business still wasn't catching up to that thing.
And you were in one of the Walking Deads, the
Fear the Walking Dead.
Fear the Walking Dead.
But talk about avoiding negative characters. So they kept offering me, when The Walking Dead came out, you know, they wanted every actor that's known to be in those genres. Well, I kept saying no because every character was either a victim of the zombies or, you know, a sad character or an evil character or, you know, and I said,
You were a lovely character.
Ruben,
You were a lovely
Ruben
character.
Blades said, that's one of the most compassionate characters
Yeah.
I have ever seen in the zombie world. Well, I had to wait for that character. I mean, that franchise was 14 years old by the time they got to me. So I kept saying no, 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 no. And finally they came up with a character who was possibly an ex-seminarian, was homeless in the streets when the apocalypse happened. So he was a survivor. He was doing well, but he was also a water bearer.
And he knew when the water
bearer.
would be turned on.
So he would bring the water to the
like
communities.
spiritual, yeah.
Yes, he was a totally spiritual character. But the fans of that character, who were the writers of producers of that show at that time, and that's one of the reasons that Fear the Walking Dead went to Mexico, because they were actually filming at Rosarito Beach at Baja Studios, which is all Mexicanos.
Beautiful place.
So for a second, I was sitting around going, okay, am I dreaming? Because this is my dream. This is my Spike Lee dream, where I'm looking around and every crew member, every studio personnel is Latino, is Mexicano, and they were my fans. So they were walking around going, oh my God, Cruzito's here. I tell this hilarious story that when we were working in Tijuana, because we were actually filming at the Tijuana Dam, and I love Tijuana because it's such a beautiful, beautiful city. Playa Tijuana reminds me of Venice in the 1980s, Venice, California, which is where I grew up and raised my daughter there in my early acting years, right? So to me, I saw a lot of similarities with the communities. So being in Tijuana, filming in the streets to me was like nothing, right? It's very comfortable. But there was a moment when we were hanging out in the Tijuana River and we were hanging out, and I was relaxing there on the set, and I hear, excuse me, perdón, señor, pero tú eres Cruzito? And I turned around and, you know, expecting to see some fans. Allah, there was 30 zombies, 30 Mexican zombies looking at me like, you know, with bandanas,
So
dressed like la calle, you know, but they were zombies because they would use the locals as zombies. And they're looking at me going, you know, ¿tú eres Cruzito? And I said, seguro que sí. ¿Podemos tomarnos un retrato? Pues seguro que sí. So there's a picture in Mexico with me and 30 zombies throwing the vatos locos.
Wow.
Right? Throwing the, you know, 30 zombies. I was like, wow, that's beautiful. I want that picture.
Yes. It'll surface somewhere on social media today.
But this, to me, just constantly reinforced that idea I have always felt, that Chicano culture is a bridge. We've always been a puente between la gente, los recién llegados, our immigrant communities. For years, when I lived in LA, and again, even though the film got squashed, there was always fans. There was always fans. They were either Chicano fans or people that saw it on VHS, or people that when it came out on DVD, the director's cut reinvigorated that fan base. So there was a lot of people that saw it on DVD. YouTube, once YouTube came out, that was the only way to watch it outside of, normal streaming platforms, because it wasn't streaming. So the fans just kept sharing it and sharing it. So back to that point you were making, when it was released as Sangre por Sangre in Latin America and in Mexico, there was no sabotage of the release. So think about it. In Latin America, we were the title of the year. We were, you know, the number one pirated film through the 90s and early 2000s, right?
I think I when I would drive up to the Malt House on the west side, and there was always a guy with bootleg DVDs and even cassette tapes back in the day and everything. And he was selling Blood In, Blood Out. Now, it was a real shaky version.
Yeah. You know, it was someone caught it and, you know, But after DVD, it was easy to knock it off. You know, that's the version
With good
that
quality,
that kept up being uploaded to YouTube, right? And that's how they started the rumor that there was a 5-hour version out there.
Oh my God.
5-hour version. And I asked Taylor, I go, Taylor, there's been this rumor on the internet for years that there was a 5-hour version. Was there ever? He goes, yes. He goes,
no.
But nobody ever saw it. He goes, because it was a 5-hour cut that I showed the Disney executives. When they started waffling, I was trying to tell them, I already have part 2. Just give me permission to cut it into 2 and release it as 2. But at that time, they were so cold on it that it took everything just to get them to release it theatrically.
I never knew that.
So they said, we don't care. We don't care. You got to cut this down to 1 movie and it's going to VHS. And at that point he went, no, I'm Academy Award winning Officer and a Gentleman, produced La Bamba, Taylor Hackford. No. And they went, okay, Taylor, the best we can do is we'll give you a theatrical release, but you have to change the title. And at that point he threw his hands up in the air and said, well, in order to get it released theatrically, and it did well, let me tell you 2 places it did well. LA, because it was about LA, so it lasted there for about 3 weeks. Everywhere else, it didn't last more than a couple of weeks. San Antonio, when it went to the dollar movies. Remember we had the dollar movies? When it went from the main down to the dollar, oh my God, it lasted for about a month at the dollar movies. So the raza kept it alive.
Yes, mi gente.
And now that it's streaming, I thank all the fans that I made. They go, why are you so humble? I go, because without you guys, we would not even be streaming. Disney would have washed us away. We would have been forgotten. You guys kept it alive, kept it popular in the cult world. Over the years, we had, reunion events. In 2017, we had an enormous reunion in downtown LA. Plaza de la Cultura did a wonderful free screening there. And Taylor Hackford, Helen Mirren, his wife, was there.
Ugh, love her.
She's have you seen her on the internet with her Vatos
Oh
Locos
my
Forever shirt?
God, she is fabulous.
So, she was on the set with us because at that time she had just gotten together with Taylor. So she was a ruca loca, dude, hanging out in East LA with us. And she's so supportive of him that she shows up to all of the screenings and events. And it's like the queen is here with us. Look out. We've made it.
The crown, absolutely.
Yes. So to me, that type of, personal investment in that project kind of has kept it afloat. And now 30 years later, there's like a resurgence. And now on Hulu, this 30-year movie, since it started streaming 3 weeks ago on May 1st, it's number 5. On Hulu.
Let's talk about
Again,
that. A common theme that I've heard you speak on is the fact that there's sabotage towards Blood and Blood Out specifically, but also lack of infrastructure, lack of support for Latino films.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it's necessary. It's not sabotage, dude. It's not like that. It's kind of...
You don't think Disney sabotaged Blood and Blood Out?
Well, it was actually a business move for them because... there was 2 very significant social events happening. American Me had caught a lot of negative publicity because of some idea that the actual prison clicas didn't like it, right? I don't know how true that all was. A lot of this is rumor and mythology that's grown in the internet.
I've heard some of that too myself, yeah.
But Universal did the opposite. That studio did the smart thing and turned into the negative publicity. You see what I'm saying?
In which way?
You got to go see this film. They went, yes, look at all the controversy.
And embrace the idea that any publicity is good publicity, right?
Come see how authentic it is. Edward James Olmos, that and the fact that Edward James Olmos did such an incredible job.
Incredible.
I mean, he broke my heart.
Yeah.
And, he revealed something about a character that was deep, right? So whether it was whatever the negative stuff was from the powers that be, the reality of it is it got the film seen. So American Me, but it blew up all that publicity. So the Disney, think about it. Hollywood Pictures is Disney. They went, wait a minute. that's not the type of marketing we want. And I think they were already on the fence about the subject matter, you know, because they let Taylor, that was Taylor's baby, you know.
They gave him carte blanche until they saw the screening.
Yeah.
Right?
Taylor, Hackford, and Katzenberg, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think when they saw the screening, because that's where the 5-hour version comes from.
Right.
So I think it was, so here's the business move. So again, they spent a whole year with this genre type, similar type of film blowing up, but with this negative publicity. So they were already in the fence. Then the riots happened.
Yeah.
And LA got burned to the ground, dude.
Yeah.
I was in LA at that time.
Wow.
Imagine Toronto, dude, smoking.
Yeah, wild. I can't even imagine.
There would not be no movies. The studios closed. You know, cops were surrounding the studios. There was no auditions. There wasn't nothing going on.
Right.
So I think in that time period, Disney looked at a brand and went, this is not really the type of film that we should be releasing right now. That's what I think, if I think about it. Because by the time it got to me, that was 6 months later. That was after the riot. It was at the end of the year.
That's what I've heard.
And
That's
I
what
was
I've
like,
read.
yeah, we'd already done the press junket at the beginning of the year, before all the pedo, you know? So we had we were in Miami. We were like, we did New York. We did Chicago. Man, Raza came out. I was like, we're going to make Disney. They were predicting it was going to make $40 million the first weekend. Think about it, yeah.
Believable.
And if you watch it on Hulu and you see it in 4K, I mean, Gabriel Beristain, Mexicano, director of photography, shot a beautiful film.
It's beautiful.
He made East Los look like a beautiful mamazota mujer, man. You know, it was like, right? Everybody wanted to go there and see this place.
That's what made me want to go to LA.
The
first time I ever
destinations have become treasures, you know, not
you know
only
me, you
of
saw
the
me posting
tourists,
them. I just recently went to
but also
El
the
Pino.
barrio, dude. The barrio
Of course.
itself is like, well, if it hadn't been for that film, you know, people wouldn't even, you know what I mean? It was that kind of
100%.
thing. It was a love letter in many ways.
really was.
From the director of photography, from Jimmy Baca, from Taylor Hackford,
Yeah.
from the actors. All of the actors wanted to represent correctly and well. So, you know, it was a very different feel from American Me. You know, American Me was a very dark, you know, really very much Chicano film noir, dude, you know, very much so.
That's a good way to put it.
Even in the performance. Blood In, Blood Out was always designed to be 2 films. So it was going to be Godfather 1 and Godfather 2, you know what I mean? So that type of energy was there. It was there. Again, Disney had not seen it, right? Mm-hmm. Disney was like, okay, all we know is that we've given you this money. We've been waiting for 3 years, and we've seen some rushes and some screens, good stuff, but we're not really sure. So at that point, they went to Taylor and they went, hey, Taylor, we're going to put it out on VHS. Mm-hmm. And Taylor went, what? They said, yeah, we don't think we should release this film right now. Apparently there had been a skirmish. They said it was a shootout, but, you know, I never heard any real story that in Vegas there was some pedo at one of the screenings between a couple of representatives of clicas, right?
Interesting.
So I don't know if it was this, if it was that, dude. To me,
Do you think that it's true? Do you think that happened?
there might have been a fight, dude, but between dudes who didn't like each other.
Yeah, of
not
course.
because of the film. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like,
It's almost an excuse to do something they already wanted to do.
I think, bro.
Yeah.
I think because again, I just told you about another company that did the same thing.
Yeah.
And spun it and made, you know. So I think it was a business move. I think they looked at their books. They said, we're solid. We can take a hit.
You know what's interesting though? Because they saw the numbers upon demand when it was released on VHS. Because that was getting picked. Everybody that I know that's Latino has a copy on VHS.
Okay, so you know it has 3 names, right?
Blood In, Blood Out,
So
Sangre por Sangre.
the only way they released
Bound
it
by
on
Honor.
theater is if Taylor would change the name. And that's how it caught the name Bound by Honor.
Yeah.
So by the time it came to me, Taylor said, look, with everything that's happened this year, the only way they'll let us release it is if we change the name. And I went, what? we've been promoting it as Blood In, Blood Out for 3 years, dude. We did the press junket as the blood. And he goes, that's the only way. Otherwise, they're going to put it out on VHS. And I went, like that? And he said, yeah. I said, oh, my God. So when you said Bound by Honor, I said, but then when they released it on VHS, they changed the name back to Blood In, Blood Out.
So do you think that it registered in people's minds, the original marketing?
That's business, baby. That's marketing 101. Wow. That's marketing 101. They wanted the Latinos to rent it at the VHS. So that lets me know that it was a business move. It wasn't a sabotage. It was a business move. To them, it was like, this is better. This protects the brand, which is a business move, and this still gets us our play, which is a business move. So, then when it went on DVD and they put out the director's cut, which had more of Taylor's cut in it. So, unfortunately, there's that whole rumor about a 5-hour version. You ever heard that rumor?
I've heard Damian Chapa say that there's a 5-hour version that he saw.
Well, it was an internet rumor for years. Oh yeah, I saw a 5-hour version. And then I finally asked Taylor, I go, Taylor, what? And he goes, well, no. He goes, there isn't a 5-hour version. It's probably been destroyed. He goes, but I put together a 5-hour version that I showed the Disney executive because I was trying to convince them that I already had part 2. All I needed was permission to release them as 1 and 2. He goes, I didn't need to shoot anymore, right? I had it. And at that point, they were so cold on the project that they said, we don't care, cut this down. And that's why the movie's 3.5 long, because he had to cut the 5-hour version down. And I was like, wow, that would be incredible to get that footage back.
That'd be amazing. Does that exist somewhere?
I don't think, he said he doesn't think so. He doesn't think so.
So he doesn't have it? He wouldn't have access to it? No. The studio has it.
No. Yeah, because I asked him, I go, do you still have it? He goes, no. He goes, I just put that. He goes, the studio's got it.
Wow, that would be amazing.
But putting together the book, it was great because they allowed him to go to the archives and pick out some of Merrick Morton's incredible stuff, and that's why the book has the 4 authors.
Beautiful.
Taylor, it's his journals, Jimmy Baca's original poetry.
Wow.
He read some of it at Cal State when we released the book at the beginning of the year. It's like, man, you haven't missed a step, carnal. He's got that beautiful voice, his delivery. But the pieces that he wrote for the book, it's like 30 years later, it's still creating art.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Still creating art. So the book is beautiful, Hat and Beard Press.
They're on second edition now. First edition sold out almost immediately. Yeah. I missed it there. I put my order in for second edition. It's on the way. It's coming.
Yeah.
So I recommend to everybody watching, put your order in now.
Please. It's a beautiful book. Any collector would want it.
Yeah.